Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome. Welcome to our webinar. We're just going to wait a few moments to see if any more people arrive. I can see the numbers getting higher, so people are still joining. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the webinar that we're hosting, What Makes a Competitive Application? I still see that some people are joining, so we'll just leave it one more moment. In the meantime, I'll introduce myself. My name is Lauren. I'm one of the admission officers here at Michener. Uh, I'm also joined here today by Catherine. She's our admission coordinator. We have Faith here. She's one of the senior admission advisors. And we also have Cherry and Jason from the recruitment team. So we'll just wait a few more moments for more people to join. I'll just say now, if you have any questions along the way, we will have a Q&A at the end of the session. If you want to put your questions right in the Q&A function, that would be great. That way we can track it. So we won't be responding so much just to the chat, but we'll use the Q&A function at the end. So I'll just leave it one more moment and then we can get started. All right. So thanks everyone for joining again. We have a few more people coming and I'll just start now. Uh, thank you. This is the What Makes a Competitive Application webinar. Thanks again for joining. And again, my name is Lauren. I'm one of the admission officers. I have Catherine here, the admissions coordinator, Faith, the admissions advisor, and Cherry and Jason, our recruitment team. Okay, I'm going to go through the agenda with you, but first I'll do the land acknowledgement. We're on the sacred land. Michener, the Institute operates, um, the sacred land on which the Michener Institute operates has been and continues to be the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit River, among many other unnamed and unrecognized Indigenous communities. Michener stands on the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. We recognize that this agreement is not a thing of the past, but a promise that we honor today and into the future. We share the responsibility of taking care of this land and transforming our personal and institutional relationships. We acknowledge that this is our collective responsibility to strengthen our ties within the communities we serve and practice healthcare in a way that advances the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 7 health-related recommendations. So today we're going to go through a few topics. First, we're going to start with assessment criteria for your application. Then we'll go into what is considered a complete application, followed by what makes an application competitive, as well as document requirements, prerequisite requirements, and tips for applicants. And then at the end, that's when we'll have our question and answer session. So again, if you want to ask any questions, you can put them in the Q&A function. Please do not use the chat though. All right, I'll hand it over to Catherine now.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you everyone who has joined today's webinar. So first of all, we're going to start with the assessment criteria. We are starting with this one, so everyone who has applied or who is intending to apply to Michener knows what Michener consider at the time of the assessment. So first, we're going to start with the medical laboratory science. So for the medical laboratory science, we do consider for the assessment, it will be 100% based on the prerequisite courses grades. For the diagnostic cytology, this is a postgraduate program, so applicants need to have a bachelor's degree, and the assessment criteria will be 100% based on the CGPA. Then we also have another assessment criteria, which is the combination of the academic achievement and Casper. So under that category, we have the magnetic resonance imaging first discipline. This is a direct entry program. For this program, the assessment criteria will be the prerequisite courses grades will be 50% and Casper will be 50%. Respiratory therapy, it will be the same case. So for respiratory therapy, prerequisite courses grades will be 50% and Casper will be 50%. Then we have chiropody and ultrasound. These two programs, they are a postgraduate program. So for both programs, what we are going to consider is a CGPA. It will be your university CGPA, bachelor's CGPA, and it will be 50%, and then the other 50%, it will be the Casper. And then we also have another criterion, which is the one that includes the academic achievement, the Casper, and the applicant experience checklist. This one applies for the genetics technology. For the genetics technology, this is a postgraduate program, and what we consider at the time of the assessment, it will be the CGPA, which will be 35%, Casper is 45%, and the applicant experience checklist, which is 20%. And we have also the cardiovascular perfusion, which is our Master of Science program. For this one, we are looking, so what we consider for the assessment, it will be 40% for the CGPA, Casper will be 40%, and the applicant experience checklist, it will be 20%. So moving forward, what we consider a complete application. So for those who haven't applied, and also this is important to know what is considered and complete application first, that the application is submitted through OCAS for our advanced diploma programs and through Michener self-service for our cardiovascular perfusion by the February 1st, 2026 deadline. For our advanced diploma programs, which application is submitted through OCAS, it's really important that the applicants ensure that they are paying the 55 supplemental fee, because only if they pay the supplemental fee, it's when we receive the application. So let's say that you only pay the application to OCAS, but you don't pay the supplemental fee, we are not going to receive the application. So it is really important that you are paying the supplemental fee as well, and this must be by the deadline, which is February 1st, 2026. Any supplemental fee paid to OCAS after the deadline, unfortunately, Michener is not going to be able to receive the application. So just ensure that you are paying also the supplemental fee. And the second one, it will be the Casper test. And this one applies for all the programs except the medical laboratory science and the diagnostic cytology, as mentioned previously. So for some of the programs, again, I will repeat this information: magnetic resonance imaging first discipline, respiratory therapy, chiropody, and ultrasound. Casper counts for the 50% of the assessment, so this part is really important. And then for genetics technology, Casper will be the 35%, and for CVP, cardiovascular perfusion, it will be 40%. So it's really important that you register and you complete the Casper. The last Casper day will be February 19, and we have now left the January 22nd. It's the next available day, and then the last one will be February 19, 2026. So just ensure that you are registering for Casper for these programs in case you haven't. And then another important point is that all required documents must be submitted to Michener by February 15, 2026. For OCAS programs, for programs that the application is submitted through OCAS, the documents are submitted directly to OCAS. When you receive your application acknowledgement, you will see all the instructions. And for CVP, the documents are submitted through Michener self-service. And this is really important. So all the transcripts must be submitted directly by the issuing institution. So again, if you are applying through OCAS, this needs to be sent by your host institution to OCAS. And if you're applying through Michener self-service for the cardiovascular perfusion, official transcript must be sent from the host institution to Michener at admissions@michener.ca. You will see also all the instructions in the application acknowledgement email. This part that I'm going to mention now is really important, and it's for applicants who has completed their education outside Canada, regardless their status in the country, because sometimes there are some confusion with this. It doesn't matter if you are a permanent resident or if you are a Canadian citizen. Still, if you have completed your education outside Canada, we do require the credential evaluation from WES, and it needs to be a course by course for WES and or the ICAS. And this information must be received by the February 15, 2026 deadline. So this is really important. And if you have completed your education in a country that is not recognized or is not accepted, like doesn't have an extension for the English proficiency test, also a proof of English language assessment is required. If you require more information about that, please visit our website or reach out to admissions@michener.ca. Now, and one of the reasons, and I think that for which this webinar has been hosted, is to let the applicants know what makes an application competitive. So the first is that all applicants, they must check the academic requirements. All the programs, they have different requirements. All the programs has different degree requirements, CGPA and prerequisite requirements. So it is really important that you check what are the requirements for the program. And if you're applying for multiple programs, just check each of the programs that you're applying for, just to make sure that you meet with the minimum requirements of the program. The second aspect that makes an application competitive is that for our postgraduate programs, a high cumulative CGPA, it is really important because as mentioned before, it will be 50% for some of the programs. For the genetics technology and for the CVP, so for CVP program, it will be 40%. And then for genetics technology, sorry. So just make sure that you are checking the CGPA, and this is part of the assessment. And a strong Casper performance for those programs that Casper is required, and ensure that you are practicing before taking the Casper, as this may come from 40 to 50% of the assessment. So it's really important that you prepare for the Casper and you perform well in this test. As mentioned before, medical laboratory science and diagnostic cytology doesn't require Casper. For our direct entry programs, so the CGPA or the competitive one, it's calculated based on your prerequisites. So just ensure that you have high grades, or if you don't have, or if you are like doing any kind of odd grade, please let us know, because this is really important when we are doing the assessment. And the second part, as mentioned previously, so the documents. Documents are a really important part of your application, since if the documents are not received by the February 15 deadline, unfortunately, your application will be considered as an incomplete application. So the mandatory documents for our programs are, for the medical laboratory science, it will be the transcripts. For the magnetic resonance imaging first discipline, it will be transcripts, and respiratory therapy as well, your transcripts. As mentioned previously, if you are an internationally educated applicant, just ensure that you are also submitting your WES course by course evaluation, or ICAS, by the given deadline. And if you are completing a prerequisite, you must submit the proof of registration and enrollment for prerequisite courses by the February 15 deadline. Then we are moving to our postgraduate programs and what are the mandatory documents. So for the cardiovascular perfusion, we do require transcripts. We do require the applicant experience checklist. This is really important. Even if you don't have any item to check in the list, you still need to submit the applicant experience checklist. You will find at the top of the checklist box that say none of these applies or none of above. So just click in that one, but still you need to submit the document and as it is a mandatory document for the application. If we don't receive the applicant experience checklist, that will be a reason for rejection of your application because it will be considered as an incomplete application. So just keep this in mind. And another required and mandatory document for the cardiovascular perfusion program is the letter of intent and the letter of recommendation. We do advise you to check our website to see the requirement of each of these documents and what we are looking for. And if you have any question, feel free to reach out to admissions@michener.ca and we will be able to assist you further. For the genetics technology, we do require the transcripts and the applicant experience checklist. This is a mandatory document saying as CVP, even if you don't have anything that you need to check in the checklist. Still, you need to submit these documents as it is mandatory and it's part of your application. If we don't receive the applicant experience checklist, then the application is considered incomplete and is a reason for rejection. So just ensure that you are submitting the documents. And if you have applied for the fall 2025 intake, please know that you need to submit a new applicant experience checklist for the 2026. Please check our website because there is some changes for the CVP and for the genetics technology. There is also a new form. It has the same criteria, but still, it's a new intake, so you need to submit a new applicant experience checklist for these programs. For chiropody, the mandatory for chiropody and ultrasound, we do record the transcripts. Again, these documents must be submitted from your institution directly to OCAS. All instructions are provided in the acknowledgement emails that we send once we receive the applications, and also you will find the information in our website. If you have any in progress course or if you are completed or enrolling in a prerequisite course that is required for any of these programs, ensure that you are submitting your proof of registration or proof of enrollment by the February 15 deadline. For genetics technology and cardiovascular perfusion, also ensure that you are checking the checklist, the supporting document side, because there are some documents that needs to be submitted along with the applicant experience checklist. So also make sure that you are checking that part. Now, another important part for your application, it will be the mandatory prerequisite courses. So first, we are going to start with our direct entry programs. For our medical laboratory science, we are looking for prerequisites: English, math, chemistry, biology. This can be C or university level, and we are looking for a minimum of 70%. For respiratory therapy, we are looking for English, math, chemistry, biology, physics, and another elective course. So for this one, it is important that it needs to be U level. So all the time check this because even if you are applying, let's say, for medical laboratory program with C-level courses and you're applying also for respiratory therapy, we will take the C-level courses for the medical laboratory science, but not for the respiratory therapy, because in order to meet the prerequisites, this needs to be U level. And it is important to mention that proof of registration or enrollment for the prerequisites must be submitted and by the February 15, 2026 deadline, and at least 50% of the prerequisites grades must be available by that time. And this is really important because, as mentioned before, part of the assessment criteria for these programs, it's based on your prerequisite courses, so we need something to assess. So just make sure that you are submitting your results before that time for at least 50% of the courses. And another important part is that, for example, if you are doing a pre-health science pathway to advanced diplomas and degree certificate, you can also submit that, and that will meet the requirements. And for respiratory therapy, post-secondary courses can be also used to satisfy the subject prerequisites, and this must be at the minimum of 65% in each subject, and the CGPA must be 70%. So just make sure that all your documents are included when you are submitting your application. And the second program will be the magnetic resonance imaging first discipline. For this program, we have three options. So if you're applying under option A, which is 1 year of post-secondary studies, this needs to be university. So you need to have biology and math courses, at least any first year math courses. For if you're applying under option B, which is the pre-health science pathway to advanced diplomas and degree, it needs to be a minimum of 75%. And if you're applying under option C, which is direct high school, so English, math, and biology must be U level, and it will be 85%, what we are looking for as a minimum. For direct high school, even though we only have 3 courses as a prerequisite, all applicants must have a total of 6 courses, like 6 grade courses, U level for this particular program. Now we are going to move to the prerequisites courses for our postgraduate programs. So for cardiovascular perfusion, it will be algebra or calculus. 0.5 credits is what we do require. We also have chemistry, 0.5, human anatomy, 0.5, human physiology, 0.5, and physics. For that 0.5, it's 1 semester. For chiropody, we are looking for 0.5 credits of human anatomy and 1 credit of human physiology, which is the equivalent of 2 semesters. For diagnostic cytology, we are looking for 0.5 credits of human anatomy and 0.5 credit of human physiology. For genetics, we are looking for 0.5 credits of human genetics and 0.5 of molecular genetics. And for ultrasound, we are looking for 0.5 human anatomy course and 0.5 credit for human physiology. So again, 0.5 credit, it will be 1 semester, and 1.0 credit will be 2 semester length. So for chiropody, we're looking for 2 semesters for human physiology. If you have any questions about your prerequisites, please feel free to send an email at admissions@michener.ca. Now we are moving with the mandatory prerequisites. So this is really important. So if you are unsure about the prerequisites, it's always advisable to search and inquire about them. For example, if you are missing one of the previously mentioned prerequisites for your program, you can check. For example, at Michener, we offer some CE courses that satisfy the prerequisites. For example, our APCE A90 satisfy the gross human anatomy and gross human physiology requirement prerequisite. It is important to mention that this course doesn't satisfy the chiropody prerequisites, but we do accept from other institutions. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our admissions teams. For genetics technology, we do offer the 2 prerequisite courses, which are the human genetics and the molecular genetics. So you will still have time to enroll into these programs in case you don't have the prerequisites. Remember that the proof of registration or enrollment must be submitted before the February 15 deadline. Um, Important to mention, we do also accept prerequisites completed at another recognized university. So just ensure that you are including this with your application. Now we are going to give some tips for applicants, domestic and international. So the number one is to make sure to review the program page to ensure that you meet all admission requirements. And we have a recording available from our first webinar, which was the admissions requirements. So you have those two resources. As mentioned before, if you're applying for multiple programs, just ensure that you are checking the requirement of each of the programs that you are applying for. And the second one will be ensure your application is complete, ensure that you are submitting all your documents before the deadline, and you register and complete the Casper test. If you are enrolling in a prerequisite course, so what you have to do, I will just put this slide again, is that you need to submit proof of registration by the February 15 deadline and proof of course completion by the July 15 deadline. So these two deadlines are different. Proof of registration is required by the February 15 deadline. And another tip, this is really important. If you are grading courses for direct entry or you are completing some of the prerequisites, ensure that Michener knows by submitting the proof of enrollment. Because sometimes we do have applicants that they are enrolled or they are doing some courses upgrade, but they don't notify or they don't submit this proof on OCAS or in on their Michener self-service for the cardiovascular perfusion. So there is no way that Michener can know that you are upgrading your course. So just ensure that you are submitting the proof by the February 15 deadline. And for applicants who are currently or who has just completed the semester 2025 intake, ensure that your full 2025 grades are submitted to Michener by the February 15, 2026 deadline. So this is really important. And again, the transcripts or the grades must be submitted directly from the host institution to Michener. If it is for an OCAS application, this can be submitted directly to OCAS. Another tip for the programs that require Casper is to prepare for this test. There are some available tests for practice through Acuity Insights. So just make sure that you are checking this and prepare yourself for the test, as this is a really important part for your application. Again, medical laboratory science and diagnostic cytology program, they don't require Casper, but the rest of our programs, I'm going to repeat one more time, which is magnetic resonance imaging, first discipline, respiratory therapy, chiropody, ultrasound, cardiovascular perfusion, and genetics technology, they do require Casper. So just ensure that you are registering, you are practicing for the test, and you are completing the test. Our last test will be February 19, 2026. Next advice is to submit documents early. For those applicants who submitted their application by October and November, the admissions team has been communicating to them and send them reminders about the documents that are pending. So if you have received any of those emails, please ensure that you are submitting your documents. You are submitting the documents before the deadline. Tips for international applicants, as we have also international students, international applicants who are applying for our programs. We do advise you to have your international education credentials evaluated by WES. Again, we do require course by course or by ICAS. Ensure that you have all your prerequisite courses completed or in program or in progress. If you have in progress courses, please ensure that you are submitting your proof of enrollment or registration by the February 15, 2026 deadline. And if you require to submit an English proficiency test, please ensure that you are submitting your results. If you have any questions about this, you can visit our website, and if you want to check if your country is under the list of countries that doesn't require an English proficiency test, if you have completed your education in one of these countries, you can check the list. And remember that it is really important to know that to be exempted from the English proficiency test, 2 or more consecutive years of post-secondary education must be completed. If you have 1 year, we cannot exempt or waive the English proficiency test, as we do require 2 years of post-secondary education in a recognized English-speaking country. Just check our website for more information or reach out to our admissions team at admissions@michener.ca. We also host every single Friday an Ask Me session where you can join and ask questions to our admissions officers and our recruitment team. Now we are going to open the floor for questions.
Thanks everyone for putting your questions into chat. We've been answering a lot as we go. There's one I'm going to answer here. Someone's saying, once applicants meet the minimum GPA and Casper requirement, what factors most often differentiate those who receive offers for those who are waitlisted? And that's a lot of what Catherine talked about. So most programs that we have that have Casper, it's half the assessment is your Casper score, the other half is your academic achievement. So they're both weighed equally. And then if it's a second entry program, so one that requires a university degree, then we're looking for those really high CGPAs to make you competitive. If it's one of our direct entry programs, so that's the med lab program, MRI, and respiratory therapy, since we technically take students at a high school who don't have a CGPA, in that case, we're really looking for high grades among the prerequisites. And some people are asking about proof of enrollment. So there's lots of ways that you can show proof of enrollment in prerequisites. So someone here is asking about the human anatomy and physiology. So if you are taking human anatomy and physiology this winter term and you're in university, it will show up under your official transcript for winter term as in progress. But if you're taking that course at an outside university, say you're taking it at a continuing education program or at the BASCA, then please send the official or like a screenshot of your enrollment or the official in progress transcript to ask-us at ontariocolleges.ca. And so that will come up on your OCAS dashboard. It'll say like student letter, and we'll treat that as proof of enrollment. And then if it's for cardiovascular perfusion, then you can submit it directly through self-service. Anyone who's enrolled in our own prerequisites, so our APCE, that's our Human Anatomy and Physiology course. We also have the molecular genetics and human genetics. We can see your enrollment and your grades through our own internal system. So you don't have to submit a in progress transcript or proof of enrollment, but what we do ask you to do is to declare it on OCAS. So if you're applying on OCAS under education, you can just put the Michener Institute and under the program, put, the course code APCE or Human Anatomy and Physiology, and that will definitely help us go, oh, great, this applicant, they're currently enrolled. They don't have their human anatomy now, but we see they're taking it right now. So that's a really great way to show proof of enrollment. And again, proof of enrollment doesn't have to be an official transcript, but if you do get a conditional offer, we will need that official transcript to show that it's been completed before July 15th. Okay. Someone here is asking, I'm applying with my prerequisites from pre-health pathway to advanced diplomas and degrees at George Brown. Do I need to ensure my high school transcript is also sent if those grades were not competitive? So we always encourage anyone applying to our direct entry programs to apply with all transcripts. So high school, college, university, we encourage everyone to do all transcript because we'll always assess in the applicant's favor. So you may know that you're definitely more competitive one way. That's great. We'll see that too. But we still say always best to send all applicable transcripts because sometimes we can, pick and choose a little bit, or we'll use the higher grade, for those direct entry programs. If your high school math was really, really high, better than your university statistics, we'll use your high school math. So yeah, you you don't actually declare what pathway you're applying through. You just apply. And like I said, we encourage you to submit all transcripts because we will always assess in your favor. And then this person also asked, like, I have a great GPA 4.0. Would the Casper score still need to be competitive? Yes, we still want those top ranking. For this one, I'm going to assume this person's applying to MRI because the pre-health is definitely a common um, program people use to apply for the MRI. And that one is half Casper, half academic achievement. So we love those great high grade point averages, but we also, the Casper can really make you top rank in order to get a first round offer. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question here. This is regarding the cardiovascular perfusion program. It's our master's program that has quite a lot of admission requirements, including an applicant experience checklist, a letter of intent. This person's asking, is it necessary to get a letter from my manager to prove a minimum of 1 year critical care, or is it sufficient to provide my resume as well as a letter from the HR department? So that's great. So for the cardiovascular perfusion program, I'd say that um, anything you indicate on the checklist, just make sure that there is a letter verifying it. Either it can be from a reference or it could be proof of employment from the HR team. It just has to explicitly reference those experiences that we're looking for. Often, the person who is going to be who writes your letter of recommendation can also verify that, and that's fine. But if it's not the same person, then you can submit multiple letters or suggested here a letter from the HR department, just as long as anything on the checklist has explicit reference to it in the letter verifying it. Okay. Someone is asking, how can I confirm that my transcript was received at Michener? That's a great question. Almost all of our programs you apply to via OCAS, all of them except for our master's program. And the great thing about OCAS is that you have your dashboard with supporting documents and it is time stamped. So if you have requested your transcript end of fall term, some of those have come in already, some of them are still on their way. You'll be able to see it just as we can. You can see all your grades. You can see exactly what we see, including at the bottom. If you're still enrolled in winter term, we can see exactly what you see. If you submit a high school transcript and you're still in high school, it will update with all your new courses and you can see that just like we can. And if it's a letter like a proof of enrollment, like I mentioned before, you can submit that as a letter to ask I want to get that email address right. Ask us at Ontario colleges. And once it's received, it will be posted. So that's the really great thing about OCAS is that it acts as receipt for all the supporting documents. If you requested a transcript via OCAS and it's not there weeks and weeks later, you should definitely reach out to your university or to OCAS. As for the cardiovascular perfusion program, if you're applying to just the cardiovascular perfusion program, then you can request for your official transcript to be sent to admissions@michener.ca via like from your host institution. And once we receive it, we will verify, we will acknowledge it to you. We'll say, we've received your official transcript from the University of Toronto. It's been saved to your applicant file. But if you apply to cardiovascular perfusion in any of our other advanced diplomas, you don't have to submit your resume twice. It can all go through OCAS. So OCAS is the top choice, but if you're only applying to cardiovascular perfusion, then you can go ahead and have your university send it directly to Michener. Okay. Someone here has asked about what assessment criteria does radiation therapy fall into? That's a great question. Radiation therapy is one of the joint programs at the University of Toronto, and they actually handle all the admissions to those. We don't actually take those applications, so we can't really comment on that. It So you'd have to actually reach out directly to the MRS department at University of Toronto, and they can be helpful and advise you on the best way to apply and and what makes a competitive application there as well. Oh, and great, thank you. Jason has just put it into the chat, MRS at admissions at utoronto.ca. So for anyone who has questions about the nuclear medicine, radiation therapy, or radiological technology, you can email that address there. So someone here is asking, I'm gonna answer this one live about for the MRI first discipline, they don't have the strongest grades in the prerequisite courses. Do I still have time to enroll in those courses to make my application more competitive? Yes, you do. You have time to enroll in courses. We just need to see proof of enrollment by February 15th. But there are a few caveats. So, number one, if you are upgrading a course, one you've already taken. For instance, say it's your high school biology, grade 12 U level, SBI for you. We take an average of repeated grades. So we can't really, if you've already taken it and we can see that you're enrolled again, but all your courses are enrolled again, you're upgrading all of them, that won't be enough for us to assess on. We'll have to use your existing grades. But if you are just enrolled in one, we can do that. Um, and also, if it's like I said before, we definitely encourage people to apply with both university and high school. So if this person has high school as well as university, apply with both because we'll use the top grade from either. That includes out of province high schools. So yeah, so it is not too late, but we have to remember for the direct entry programs, those are again the med lab program, the medical laboratory science program, sorry, respiratory therapy and MRI first discipline, because it really counts your prerequisite grades. We have to have at least half of them completed with final grades. So, so the answer to that question is a little bit of yes, a little bit of no. No, you can still enroll, but just make sure they're not all repeated grades. Um, and and we'll still need to have half of the prerequisites completed with grades by February 15th. So someone here is asking about some of the supporting documents for cardiovascular perfusion. I can't find the letter of intent and letter recommendation requirements on the Michener website. So we don't have a template for those. Your letter of intent is written by you. We just want to see what makes you feel like you'd be a great candidate. It has to directly refer to this cardiovascular perfusion program. Why would you be great? And the letter of recommendation can be either from an academic or a professional letter reference. And again, it's an external person saying why you'd be a great candidate. Other than the fact that it can't be more than 2 pages, there isn't really a template. They vary from person to person, but it's really your opportunity. I mean, we really are looking at the checklist, the grade point average, and the Casper score. This is just a point to personalize it and say why this matters to you. So just there's not a template. It's just we want to hear from you directly. This is a great question. Someone's asking about uh, previous applications, the supporting documents are kept for 2 cycles. Can you resubmit old ones or new ones required? So our document retention policy says that we're allowed to hold on to applicant files for 2 admission cycles. So anyone who applied for fall 2025 and say you were waitlisted or you didn't accept your offer, we'll hold on to those applicant files, and we can use, if it's a transcript or, you know, I guess that's the main one would be a transcript. We still have those in our files. If anything has changed in your transcript, definitely send us a new one. But if you applied to say fall 2024 and before, now that's more than two admission cycles, so we won't have those retained. So some people have applied multiple times. If it was for the first time was fall 2025, yes, we can retain those files and we have them still. If it was before that, we won't have it. And please note that applicant experience checklists change slightly every year, so you'll definitely need a 2026 applicant experience checklist. And yeah, if any of your experience has changed this past year, you might want a new letter of recommendation or, a new letter of intent if that you feel will strengthen your application. Someone's asking a good question here about a a prerequisite. Uh, they have a good grade, but the credit is zero. Can it be used to complete a prerequisite? Unfortunately, no. For any course to be eligible to complete a prerequisite, first of all, we need a letter or numerical grade. So, an A, B, and sometimes we can even accept a C plus. Um, and it has to have a credit weight. So no, that one wouldn't be that course wouldn't be included in your CGPA calculation, and no, we can't use that for a prerequisite. And so if you ever took a course and you got a credit, we cannot use that. Or if you transferred from one school to another and on your current transcript it just says transfer credit, we cannot accept that either. We have to see the credit weight and the grade. I'll just answer. Someone else is asking about cardiovascular perfusion. They did uh, they applied last year and were waitlisted. So the documents, again, we will have your transcript if it's the same. You did human anatomy and physiology course. We will have those final grades. You don't have to send us proof of completion. Um, of that because we will have that on our record. We can see that if you did the APCE with us, we can see that. But definitely resubmit the 2026 applicant experience checklist. And you may, if that checklist is different than it was last year, you might need a new letter to verify anything on the checklist. And then someone else is asking right now about another Michener prerequisite, the human genetics. Do I need to submit proof of completion or does Michener automatically get the results? We do automatically get the results. So, like I said before, please just declare it under education and OCAS. Say you do get a conditional offer, then we will be following up with everyone who has a conditional offer in July because you have to show proof of completion by July 15th. So in this case, you wouldn't have to send us our own transcript. That's not necessary, but that would be on us. The onus would be on us then to see like, oh, this person, their offer was conditional on completing human genetics. We'll see, oh, great, they completed it, they passed it, the required grade, their offer is now firm. Someone is asking, does a bachelor degree have to be in science for diagnostic cytology? Yes. For almost all of our programs, we are looking for a bachelor of science. Definitely for diagnostic cytology it has to be a bachelor of science. And then whichever field, if it's biology or um, genetics or anything like that, that's fine. And we've even accepted bachelors of science and not uh, not necessarily related to the medical laboratory sciences, that is fine, but it definitely to get an offer, you have to show proof of degree conferral from with a Bachelor of Science degree. That's the same for the cardiovascular perfusion program. That's the same for the genetics technology program. It's the same for most of our programs. We have the odd, like chiropody, we'll accept a Bachelor of Kinesiology. Currently, for ultrasound, we'll accept a Bachelor of Arts in Kinesiology. That's the only non-Bachelor of Science degree we'll accept. Um, but for the most part, all of Michener's postgraduate programs are looking for a Bachelor of Science. If anyone does have a degree that isn't technically a Bachelor of Science, but it's very much like it, perhaps it's this international degree that didn't quite have the same language. They called something else. Of course, if it's a Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery, that would be sufficient as well. But if you ever confuse or just want to be reassured, you can always send us, a email with the link to the program page or your unofficial transcript, and we can confirm that for you. But typically, yes, a Bachelor of Science is what we're looking for. Someone is asking, my high school diploma is evaluated by ICAS. For anyone who doesn't know, ICAS is an international credential evaluation service and sent to OCAS, but my Michener self-service still shows pending. When should I expect this to be updated? That's a great question. Okay, so OCAS, that's the most important thing that you have your documents, your evaluation report officially sent to OCAS. On your Michener self-service, a lot of people will notice um, that there's a checklist of things that need to be done. Um, those we'll get to those throughout the assessment process. It starts in November, it's all the way into April. So at some point we'll be checking off those. But right now, the important thing is that you have your documents submitted to OCAS, and that's your and that you can see it's time stamped. It's there before February 15th. Don't be too concerned if you see something on your Michener self-service and it's still says pending and you submitted it, weeks ago. We will update it eventually. Also, just so you guys know, if you've declared yourself as being a permanent resident, it will automatically populate it so that you'll be prompted to submit an English language assessment and credential evaluation. That definitely does not apply to everyone. A lot of people did high school and university here. They go, what do you mean I need that? Don't worry about it. Again, once we actually get through all the documents, we'll start to check those things off. But right now, just worry about what you have submitted on OCAS. Um, Someone is asking a great question. When you say OCAS, is that only if you've gone to college? Because the OCAS stands for Ontario Colleges Application Service. Or can you submit, I went to university, therefore I went through OUAC. That's a great question. So OCAS, because Michener, we're a bit of a unique institution. We're not really a college or a university, but because most of our programs are advanced diplomas, we have our application system through OCAS. That being said, most of our programs are postgraduate. People are sending us their university transcripts, so you can request your university transcript through OCAS. OCAS is just it's a Ontario colleges because we're offering advanced diplomas, we associate it with a college, but if you went through to university, if you went to university here in Ontario, you can request it directly from the university on OCAS. It's pretty seamless because it's all Ontario. If you went outside of Ontario, you would just go to, your university and just the registrar's office there and request that they have it sent to Ontario colleges. But yes, we definitely deal with university transcripts consistently. Someone here, I'm going to answer this one live. Someone's asking about the ultrasound program. They have one semester of human physiology, or sorry, one semester of human physiology courses required. However, I've completed two human physiology courses to meet my graduation requirements. My question is, which course will count towards the prerequisite? We will always use the highest grade. So for the ultrasound program, what makes you really competitive is your grade point average. That being said, we'll always, for the prerequisite, we'll always input the highest grade. And definitely for those direct entry programs, if you are applying to medical laboratory science and you have high school chemistry plus three chemistries in university, you don't have to tell us which one to use. We will automatically use the highest one so long as the course itself is applicable. So yes, we always assess in the applicant's favor. Um, Someone here is asking about applicant for self-service doesn't show what is received and what's outstanding. How do I know if my application is complete without this feedback? That's a great question. Ultimately, it's up to the applicant to know what documents are required. We do have the checklist on self-service, but it's true, it's going to take a while for us to get through all of them and check them off. The greatest thing you can do is to go on the program page and under requirements, it very explicitly says what is needed. Um, so if it's, yeah, whatever program it is, you can either search it through our website or you can Google, MRI first discipline Michener or cardiovascular perfusion Michener. If you go to the requirement tabs, it will break down exactly what you need. The educational requirements, what that CGP is that we're looking for, what the prerequisites are, how many semesters we need of those prerequisites. It will tell you, how much the Casper score is weighed, if it's 50% of the assessment or less, if there's also, a checklist involved. Um, if you have on your Michener self-service, if it's suggesting on your checklist that educational credential assessment or English language assessments also required, that if you are internationally educated, that's a prompt to say yes, you do need to submit a WES course by course evaluation or an ICAS comprehensive evaluation. That doesn't apply for Canadian transcripts. But it is ultimately the applicant's responsibility to make sure that their application's complete. We have lots of tips. We have our checklist on self-service that kind of prompts it for you, but we don't acknowledge, like, if you submit some of your documents through self-service, if you apply to cardiovascular perfusion and you submitted your letter of intent, we're not going to, say it's been received. It's up to you to, kind of keep track of that. Okay, it is getting late. It's almost 6 o'clock. There's still lots of questions here that we haven't got through. These are wonderful questions. I love the opportunity to answer them all, but this webinar is wrapping up. But the great news is we have other ways for you to reach out to us. Catherine, are you able to go on to the next page? So Sherry and Jason have done a wonderful job hosting program-specific webinars. You can go on the events page or the information session page of our website and you can scan here to find them. We did ones for international students, for all the different programs, and even one with the joint programs from the University of Toronto. Most of these webinars, we have, alumni or a student or faculty there to give perspective, and they're a wonderful resource. The next slide, please, Catherine. And also, every single Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we host our Ask Me session. Ask Michener, that's what it stands for, Ask Me. I'm there. Actually, this whole crew, we're here every Friday to help give some application advice. We expect the next few Fridays to be very busy with the deadline coming up, but we're here to help. And then, of course, you guys can always send us an email. I believe our information may be on the next slide. Is that right, Catherine? Our contact information? Yes, here it all is. So you can email us at admissions@michener.ca. It's going to be one of us five responding to you. We also take walk-ins and phone calls on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 9 to 12 and 1 to 3:30. So we anticipate, yeah, these next few weeks are going to be busy as everyone's getting their application together. But yeah, if you didn't get your question answered, definitely go back and rewatch this because Catherine went through a lot of really important information. But there's also, yeah, the info sessions. You can join Ask Me, or you can send us an email as well. Thank you so much to everyone for attending. This recording of this webinar will be posted shortly. Yep, it's this, thanks so much. Please scan the QR code here if you want to become a Michener Insider and get updates from our recruitment team. I really hope we see some of you guys at our next Ask Me session, and thank you again for joining. It's been great. Thank you so much.